Hey there, this is Sober Steve. My name is Steve Truesdell, and I'm a recovering alcoholic. Thanks for checking out my channel. As I've said countless times, I'm doing this in hopes that it would help a person or two or more, and apparently it has. So some people have reached out to me and thanked me, and people that are struggling, and that means everything to me. So when I decided to do this, I looked at a few videos online, and there's some really good resources out there. And, I haven't watched enough to really recommend any, but, all I can say, whether you're watching something that I've put out there or somebody else, if it helps you, great. If it doesn't, move on. It's like I had talked to somebody that oftentimes when somebody tries an AA meeting, they say, well, I like this, but I didn't like that. That I didn't like that part. Well, yeah, I mean, same here. So, I just always take what helps, leave the rest. Don't let the other stuff bother you. This is a selfish disease, but it's also a selfish recovery. And you have to do what works for you. You have to do what's right for you. And so, there's a ton of resources out there. The reality and the bottom line is people that want help will get help, and people that don't won't. And that's the thing. And so, as I've talked about before, and the numbers are staggering with how few of people actually go into recovery, and it's really sad to me. And I know people that know that they have a problem, and they're willing to get as far as acknowledging it, but they don't want to take that first step. And so many people think that they can control it, that they're going to be the first one to, buck the odds, and they should be strong enough to control their drinking and, just drink on the weekends, or, just have 2 or 3. And it just, unless a miracle happens, I've never seen that work. And so the sooner that you can come to their grips in reality that you need help, and it's okay to need help, I mean, if you have other diseases, I think when people don't want to ask for help, they don't truly believe alcoholism is a disease. Because if you have cancer, if you have leukemia, if you have MS, aren't you going to go to a doctor? I mean, you're not going to try to treat that yourself. You're not going to think that you can handle that and get through that by yourself. It's the same thing with alcoholism, and as I always point out, though, we're blessed and we're lucky because we're the only disease. People that have alcoholism, it's the only disease that we can make a choice to put us in remission. A simple choice. I'm going to get help, and then I'm going to abstain from drinking, and I'm in remission as soon as I do that. You know what I mean? And so that's, if you're going to have a disease, this is a good one to have. Compared to the others, in my opinion. And as I've said, it changed my life, and sometimes, I don't like having to tell people, at a work function or something, like, that's trying to get you to have a drink, no, I'm a recovering alcoholic. I usually just tell them that, because then I'd rather just have them know than go through that whole thing. But some people aren't comfortable with that. And, I don't want to make other people uncomfortable, but I just put it out there sometimes. And so, it's just, most of the time in my life, it's been a blessing to have this once I went into recovery, because it totally changed the way that I approached my life. It changed the way that I approached things. And when I was drinking, it was a whole different ball of wax. And, I would lie to myself, I would lie to others, and I just wouldn't feel good. And, one thing that I've done in recovery is I really took to heart the, doing the moral inventory. And, kind of like when you're doing the steps, taking an inventory of yourself. I think the actual step is, taking a moral inventory and listing, the harm that you've done to yourself and others, and then to tell one other person about it. And, I don't go to that degree 23 years in, but I do it up here, and I just think things through. But when I went into recovery, I did do that. And I remember my counselor, Joe, at the time, told me his story, because I had mentioned he was in recovery, and he had, he's probably 20 years older than I am, and he had, at that time, 20 years sobriety, I think. And he was a Catholic, and he had gone to the priest of his church. That was the person that that he read his list to. And you're not supposed to choose a person that it's going to hurt. Like I wouldn't choose my mom and then, tell her all these things that's going to make her sad and feel horrible. I actually chose another person in recovery. But anyway, Joe had chosen his pastor, and he said, I'll always remember this story because it made me feel so much better about what I was about to face. And he said he went in and he asked the priest to listen to him. So the priest, sat down and said, okay, Joe, go ahead. And he read this list of all these terrible things he had done and laws he had broken. And he said, he had helped at this church function, and he stole the wine from the church, and then he stole money from the church to go buy more wine, and he admitted it to the priest. And so he said he read like all of this and stuff, and he said, I was looking down at the paper, and when I was done, I was terrified to look up because I didn't know, how bad this was going to be. And he said, I heard this voice. It sounded like God, and he said, are you done, Joe? Joe said, yes. And he said, welcome to the human race. And that I get goosebumps just thinking about it right now, because that's the thing. Like, people don't understand. Like, you think you're a terrible person because you've done these things, but you're a human being. People do terrible things all the time, that they're not proud of. And especially if they have a drug or alcohol problem. But even without that, people that have done things, or they have a family member that they're ashamed of because they've done something, and they don't realize, like, every freaking family has somebody that did something, even if on the outside it doesn't look that way. They look like the Brady Bunch or the Cleavers, or, and those families had things too, I'm sure, although they were just TV families. But my point is, you're not that unusual as you think, and, there's degrees, obviously. If you've killed 3 people and put them in your trunk, well, that's not good, but short of that, we all do things that we're not proud of, and that were bad things. And so once you're in recovery, like, I can honestly say in my 23 years, not much. I mean, I've made a lot of mistakes. I've said a lot of things that, I wish I could take back and things like that. But I make so many better choices than I used to. And that's just a process. But, I was telling Marie this at one point when she was asking me about this. And I said, for me, guilt is a terrible thing. If I feel guilty, I can't live with it. I have to make that right. And I've always been that way. But when I do my moral inventory, and I do it almost every night, and I don't write a list, I do it, I don't even think about it. I mean, it's just part of my routine. It's like when you brush your teeth and, get ready for bed or whatever. When I lay down to go to bed, I just think, I spend a minute, 2 minutes, think about what I did that day. Think about how I'm feeling. Did I do something that I'm not proud of? Did I do something that's bothering me? And it's about me. Did I do something? Not did somebody else do something? Or because I can't control those things. I can only control what I do. I can control what I say. That's all I have control of, my little box. What did I do? And I've come to a point where if I did everything that I'm proud of or that I feel good about, the other things don't bother me as much, because I just gotten to a point where realizing that most things that are out of your control, you can't let that get to you too much or too long. And of course it does at times. And I have periods where, I stress about things that are out of my control, and, especially things at work or things with a family member. But, you just get to a point where you realize it's hard enough to keep your own side of the street clean. You can't fix the world. You're not going to affect all these things. So, since I went to that routine and I really try to do that inventory all the time, it kind of like holds myself accountable for, what I say and what I do. It's really helped me a lot. And, when I used to drink, I would go to bed and I would usually have a beer next to the nightstand, or a 40 ounce or whatever. And that's why, this is kind of cringy, but usually I have one of these now. So is that good? No. But is that better than a warm Coors Light at 3 a.m. when you wake up coughing? Yeah. So, that's the reality, is like I had to modify some of those habits, but just crazy things. But I've gotten where I can laugh at myself. I laugh at my quirks. I laugh at what I do, but I don't have just don't have that nasty feeling in my body and my head all the time now. And that nasty feeling that I'm talking about is guilt. Because if you're a heavy drinker, chances are you feel guilty, whether you admit it or not. And not necessarily guilty because you drink too much, but guilty because you know that it's affecting your life. You know that it's affecting your partner or your mom or your sister or your employer or a friend. It's just inevitably we affect other people, whether we want to or not, whether we mean to or not. And that brings some guilt about. And then you have to justify it. Well, that person is an asshole too, or they've done this too, or, I deserve it because I work hard, or I did this for them, or, you know what I mean? It's a justification station when you're drunk. And, the first thing that happens that I can justify going to get hammered, boom, I would always do that in my relationships. And, I don't have to do that anymore, and I don't miss it. So, I guess my point is, it's those behavioral things. It's those things that when we're drinking that we feel. It's those self-thoughts, the way we talk about ourselves, the way we think about ourselves when we're drinking, compared to when you're in recovery. Not just quitting drinking, but when you're in recovery, that change is a huge part of staying sober, in my opinion. And for me, it's been huge, and that's what I just have to continue to do that. So I just wanted to do a quick fireside chat. Quick fireside chat tonight. I just wanted to kind of talk about those few things. I am going on a vacation with my brother. I'm really excited. We are going to my favorite spot. It'll be like my 5th time this year going down to Big South Fork, but it's in Tennessee, and I love camping there. And my brother hasn't been camping in like 20 years, so he's going with me. And so I'm going to do a field trip video, show some of the hiking and stuff. That it's just amazing out there, and how awesome it is that I can do that sober and not drinking. And what's cool about my brother is he doesn't drink, and he's not an alcoholic. He just chose not to drink, and he's never been a drinker. And so I'm going to kind of talk to him too. I'm going to give a quick 5-minute interview with him or something, just to see if he remembers what it was like when we were growing up, and when I was drinking heavily, what he thought about that, if he remembers what he thought about that, or how he felt about it, and how it maybe affected his choices. And I know a little bit because we're really close. I've talked over the years, but my family now, we don't talk about this stuff very often anymore. And I think they just kind of take for granted, like, he's got it, he's fine. And I don't think they harbor any bitterness about my drinking days, but I think if they're honest about it, it did affect them at the time. It affected our whole family for sure. And so I'm going to talk to him about that a little bit. And then in the next week or two, I'm going to do my story part 2, because I did a part 1 where I went from when I first started drinking, like 12, 13 years old, till I think I stopped when I was 16 or something on that one. So I'm going to do like from 17 to maybe out of college, 21 or 22 or something like that. So I'm going to do that as well. And thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you ever have any questions for me, please reach out. If you don't follow me on Twitter or Facebook, you can email me at the sobersteve channel at gmail.com, or put a question in the comments if you're not embarrassed to put that out there. I do appreciate the positive and the negative. And again, hopefully it helps people. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.